between the levels of hate violence we're having and the domestic terrorism that we're seeing and the administration's lack of interest in dealing with these issues, it's a pretty perilous time for people in the United States. In 2000, that's the year that the Census Bureau came out and said to Americans, in the 2040s, whites will no longer be a majority in this country. And if you're a white supremacist, that was a pretty terrifying thing to hear because you want to run the country with, white people in charge. And that fueled a backlash that was heightened by the economic crisis in 2007 and 8 and by the election of the first African-American president. And that backlash has come to roost in many ways with the Trump campaign. We have seen a wave of hate crimes break out across this country that are basically unprecedented.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
People were emboldened by that kind of talk. And we know that when you sort of rip the shame off of racism, right, when it's effectively endorsed by public figures, it allows these ideas to come in the public domain in a way that they hadn't been prior.
Symbolically, it was powerful because it was the first time in my lifetime, and probably yours, that there was a white man standing up and saying no to the rest of the world.
You call it terrorism, I call it patriotism. You hear me? Die.
One of the problems with 9/11 is there became this narrative in the United States that terrorism only emanates from Islam. And that's just patently false. In our most recent tally of lone wolf terror attacks, we had like 60 plus incidents that were attempted or perpetrated by white supremacists or anti-government extremists, and just a handful from people like the Tsarnaev brothers, right, in the Boston case, who were inspired by radical Islam. And this guy in Portland reminds us again, right, that terrorism, or at least horrible hate crimes, wears a white face. And that problem's not going to disappear overnight. That's rooted in American history. One of the problems is when you have tons of online hate speech, in this kind of the same way that Donald Trump emboldened people, it makes it seem normal. And it takes away the stigma that's affiliated with, using the N-word or telling somebody, go back to your country, or what other horrible things you could say, calling gay people terrible things. And so people are in these environments where they see this hate speech all the time, and maybe they think, well, that's not such a big deal. And that's a problem. More important is that for people of goodwill, that they be vocal and stand up against this hate in a positive way. And that resonates. I think many of the tributes to these two men who died in Portland are powerful reminders of the best in us